Chris is with us in Atlanta. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for taking my call. So just a little bit of background. I'm 42. I am debt-free, house and all. And I haven't been debt-free all my life, probably the last 15 years. But I feel guilty every time I spend money. We have 401k savings. We invest money. I still work. My wife still works. But it pains me to spend anything over $100 sometimes. So I was wondering if you could tell me, do you still feel that even after 30 years of being debt-free or whatnot? Because I feel it. Our house is paid off. We have no payments. And I still get that clenching in my stomach every time we have to go do anything. I can't relax and have fun. So I was wondering if you could tell me maybe how you feel, or if you felt the same way after you got out of debt and built a bunch of wealth.
It's not guilt, it's fear.
That makes sense.
And what that is as Dr. John Deloney would say, your body is remembering being broke. And it's telling you that your spending is a threat. It's a threat. It's a threat. It's a threat. And so your fear activates. That's what happened to me anyway.
Even 10 years after you got debt-free? Not
10 years, but for a while it did. And I what I did is just what you've done. I just recognized it was happening, and I kind of, like you're doing, I started asking the question, what the flip's going on? I mean, what's wrong with you? You got $1 million. What are you pissing and moaning about going to the grocery store for? You know?
Oh, it drives my wife crazy.
That was me talking to me, not you. Okay. But I'm just saying, I had to kind of go, okay. And again, I'll channel my inner Deloney, God help us. But, but the,
you're doing good.
But the thing, I had to do two things. One is I had to say, all right, facts are my friends. Okay. So what is your net worth, Chris?
I would say probably 2.2.
And you're 42 years old, and you're 100% debt-free, and your household income is what?
Around 275.
Okay. So let's just be realistic for a second. If we took $200,000 in $100 bills out of your net worth and put it in the fireplace and burned it. He's now got cold sweats, Jade.
I know he does.
If we did that, your life is not going to change 1%. Really?
Possibly.
That's a fact. No, that's a fact. Other than the nervous breakdown that you would have. But I'm just saying, but you know what I'm saying? Mathematically, are you as okay with 2 million as you are with 2.2? You are. Yeah. We know that to be true. That is a fact. Right. It's a fact. Right. So when you go and go on a nice vacation and drop 10 grand for your poor wife who's put up with you.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, I just did that and I had a nervous breakdown.
I know. But the reason is you're acting like your fear mechanism is activating as if you're broke, and the facts tell us that is a false signal.
And can I take it one further, Chris? Because I kind of relate to some of what you're saying. On Sam and I's journey through this debt-free journey and then some, I've had to go, there's been certain moments that I've had to go back and find where that emotion is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to think back on what was the instance where that was ignited. Like, okay, it was when I asked for lunch money and someone blew up on me, right? Or it was because I did this, and that was the first time that triggered that.
And there was a phrase you heard.
Yes. We ain't got no money. That was the phrase I heard growing up, Chris. And there's been so many times in my life I've had to go back and find where that came from and speak to it directly and go, hey, if I buy this pair of tennis shoes right now, it's not going to break the budget. No one's going to yell at me. No one's going to, and I've had to go back and say that if I buy what I would like to have for lunch at the grocery store, There's no guilt there. I'm not going to throw the budget off. The family's not going to pay for it. I've had to say that. And I think sometimes my guess is that there's some things that have happened that have caused some trigger in you, and you got to go back and identify that and honestly speak directly to it and say, hey, I'm not there anymore.
And I'll tell you this. Another place we've dealt with this, Chris, was once I kind of started getting past it, it's sheer terror that my wife Sharon felt when we went bankrupt and lost everything, and we had a brand new baby and a toddler, and the lights got cut off. If I even have a similar body language or tone 30 years later towards spending like the emergency fund, and it activates that, it triggers that inside of her, we have to just time out and back up, because she has to start breathing again. She feels like I'm doing what I did when I went broke for just a nanosecond, and it activates, and all of these lights light up in her physical body changes. I mean, she gets pissed off from being really terrified again, and it just doesn't.
That's how I am.
Yeah, and it activates all. Fear and anger are best friends. They run around together, and so
it's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, it is. It is. But here's the point. Okay, number one, facts are your friends. All you got to do is when you start doing that, you just have to stop and go, now wait a minute, that's not real. This is fear that's called false evidence appearing real. This is a falsehood. Us spending this money is not irresponsible, and it's not going to break our family. And you just have to talk to yourself and build the muscle then of doing that. The other thing you can do is you have a very specific process put in place and go, okay, like for instance, Sharon and I, we do not spend or give more than $1,000 without talking to each other. And if it's more than $1,000, we wait overnight also. We breathe. Now, do we have to do that mathematically today? Absolutely not. We got all kinds of margin. But we do it as an act of respect to each other to keep from activating those scars, those wounds from having gone broke. And, it was the first 5 years after going broke for me. And even today, I'm telling you, that we still, if we don't abide by some certain processes that are safety valves, then we can still step back over that line. And they're emotional processes. They're not mathematical processes. Because again, we could give away, we could take X number of dollars and put it in the middle of the floor and burn it, and it wouldn't affect our lives. We've got the money. It's not, that's not the issue. So mathematically, it's not the problem. But the action, the body language, the tone, the process used seems impulsive, irresponsible, out of control, immature, and it feels like the old days.
That's right.
And boy, it'll light your butt up.
It will. It's just another component to when we say money is, it's behavioral. And it's behavioral in the moment, but it's also taking into account the behaviors you did beforehand, and you feel that, and you're still connected to those. And so when you get in a moment where you're like, why am I freaking out right now? When I know for Sam, if the bank account used to hit a certain number, he'd start being like, okay, we got to go do something. And that's the way it is. We can't act like these things didn't have an effect on us mentally, and that behavior didn't affect us, because it does.
Now, I am much more healed 30 years ago than I was 30 months after the bankruptcy.
Yes.
30 years later versus 30 months later. And so you should go through a healing process, but it's also just wise to acknowledge what's really going on here. And then number one, we're going to say, oh, that's not real. Number two, you look at the actual ratios and go, okay, we're not being irresponsible. So why am I feeling, and then you learn you practice your way through normal feelings versus wounded feelings.